This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
If you want to try to know what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard text message and data rates apply.
Any outdated promos or other information that you hear on the fan is not the fault of the common man. I have nothing to do with it. I think we play Duluth this weekend, not North Dakota. So we're they always say you're either a day late or a week behind. I think we're a week behind. Nevertheless, legendary Mark Rosen here along with Common and Brett Blakemore, Dateline New York. Head coach of the Portland Trailblazers and a player for the Miami Heat were arrested Thursday along with more than 30 other people in two cases alleging sprawling criminal schemes to rake in millions by rigging sports bets and poker games involving mafia families, according to authorities. Portland coach Chauncey Billups was charged with participating in a conspiracy to fix high-stakes card games in Las Vegas, Miami, Manhattan, and the Hamptons that were backed by La Cosa Nostra. Is that how you said it? La Cosa Nostra?
Just say the mob.
The mob. Heat guard Terry Rozier is accused in a separate scheme to concoct fraudulent bets by exploiting insider information about NBA athletes. The indictments unsealed in New York create a massive cloud for the NBA, which opened its season this week, and show how certain types of wagers are vulnerable to massive fraud in the growing multi-billion-dollar legal sports betting industry. Joseph Nocella, the top federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of New York, called it, quote, one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States. My message to the defendants who've been rounded up today is this. Your winning streak has ended. Your luck has run out. Mark Rosen, your thoughts?
Well, you start talking about gambling situation. You were mentioning it earlier, but in the same sentence, the FBI director and others are using literally the word mob. Like this is out of, like The Godfather, Goodfellas. These are guys you don't mess around with. And they think, well, these families still exist. I mean, and it's kind of, I'm not being naive about it, but you don't really hear that much about it anymore, that the racketeering or whatever might be going on, that the mob's involved with the numbers and transport, whatever it might be.
Well, here's what it says. It says, the poker scheme cheated at least $7 million out of unsuspecting gamblers who were lured into rigged games with the chance to compete against former professional basketball players like Billups and Jones. The games were fixed using sophisticated cheating technology.
Cameras.
Such as, I'm getting to that. Such as altered card shuffling machines, hidden cameras in poker chip trays, special sunglasses, and even X-ray equipment built into the table to read the cards of unsuspecting players, according to authorities. The scheme often made use of illegal poker games run by New York crime families that required them to share a portion of their proceeds with the Gambino, Genovese, and Bonanno. You know these crime families.
Well, they've been around forever.
According to court papers.
Yeah.
Members of those families, in turn, also helped commit violent acts, including assault, extortion, and robbery, to ensure repayment of debts. In the continued success of the operation, officials said in court documents, prosecutors asked the judge to detain mafia members implicated in the case, as well as the ringleaders of the poker scheme. Prosecutors are arguing for releasing Billups and Jones, but with substantial bail conditions, including a prohibition on any form of gambling and travel restrictions.
Well, watching Chauncey Billups roam the sidelines last night against the Timberwolves in their season opener in Portland, and, he played here for a while, and he's a wealthy man. He's made a lot of money, both as a playing career and a coach. And we always want, and Rozier's also got millions of dollars. And you always wonder, what's the tug? We're not talking about Joe Bag of Donuts that's watching any NBA game or NFL game tonight, where literally the leagues have embraced sports gambling, where they have live odds during the course of the game. the Chargers are 3.5 right now, but the Vikings scored a couple early touchdowns, whatever. Now Minnesota's minus, and they literally put it on the screen so people can gamble from their devices. Those are not the people we're talking about. Now, the people that they got lured into some of these poker games apparently were the suckers that they get called in to say, "Hey, you get to sit down next to Chauncey Billups and play poker. Bring your cash." And the risks are so high, and I don't know. It's a head scratcher for lots of reasons. We don't know how deep this is going and to what extent.
Story goes on to say, in the sports betting scheme, Rozier and other defendants are accused of accessing private information from NBA players or coaches that could impact a player's performance and giving that information to others so they could place wagers. Players sometimes altered their performance or took themselves out of games early to rig prop bets, a type of wager that allows gamblers to bet on whether a player will exceed a certain statistical number, such as whether the player will finish over or under a certain total points, rebounds, or assists, according to the indictment. In one instance, Rozier, while playing for the Charlotte Hornets in 2023, told people he was planning to leave the game early with a supposed injury, allowing gamblers to place wagers, earning them tens of thousands of dollars, according to authorities. The game against the New York Pelicans raised eyebrows at the time. Rozier played the first 9 minutes and 36 seconds of the game before leaving, citing a foot issue. He did not play again that season. Posts still online from March 23rd, 2023 show that some bettors were furious with sportsbooks that evening when it became evident that Rozier was not going to return to the game after the first quarter, with many turning to social media to say that something shady had happened regarding the prop bets involving his stats for that night. The indictments contain the descriptions of several unnamed NBA players whose injury status and availability for certain games were the source of betting activity. Those players are not accused of any wrongdoing, and there's no indication that they would have even known what was being said about their status for those games. Those players include LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Damian Lillard. Their identities are clear based on a review of corresponding injury reports surrounding games mentioned in the indictment. The indictment shows that certain defendants shared information about the availability of those players in a game on March 24, 2023, involving the Portland Trailblazers, and 2 games in 2023-2024 involving the Los Angeles Lakers. The NBA had investigated Rozier previously. He was in uniform as the Heat played the Magic on Wednesday in Orlando in the season opener for both teams, though he did not play in the game. So that's pretty much where we are right now. That's the latest on this.
Yeah, and it's going to comment, just reading, as you just did, all the charges and et cetera, this is going to paint a broad brush in the minds of a lot of fans, a lot of people who follow sports in particular. Like, well, it's almost like I told you so. I mean, it's even legal now for college, and I think, Blake, you can bet. It's legal for college athletes to bet on professional sports, right? I mean, it's.
I guess I'm not sure.
I think you can. But anyway, the point is, it's gonna lead to, when they have when so and so's resting tonight, he's not playing in the game. We've gone through this before, over and over again. But it's definitely people are going to go, well, something fishy going on here. What probably isn't.
If he's rested before the game starts, that's one thing.
Different.
If he's listed as out, he's out. All bets are null and void, I would assume. But when a player is in the game and then he comes out halfway through the first quarter claiming an injury, well, those bets have been made. I'm assuming from what I'm reading there that if a guy comes out of the game, well, you lose your bet. So we can't worry about injury.
But if you were in Vegas last night, and even up until I was following social media a little bit on it, Anthony Edwards was listed as questionable right before the game last night with back spasms. And I'm saying to myself, there's no way in hell Anthony's going to miss this game. Ant's going to play. He's going to play through whatever's bugging him, but he was listed as questionable. Now, does that information influence the bettors? You're going, man, he may not play tonight. I'm not going to take the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I'm sure.
100%. And that was not like earlier in the day. That was literally like Fitch said, I don't know if he's going to play or not.
Here's what I'll tell you. You go back to Black Sox scandal in 1919, Pete Rose betting scandal, and many, many, many others that have happened over the years. And the one thing with sports, I said this earlier in the program, is that you always want to feel that when you sit down and buy a ticket to a game, or in your case, get tickets to the game from Charlie in your courtside, or you're watching a game on television, that you are seeing, regardless if the team you want to win or lose, whether you've bet money or not, you're seeing in a game that's on the up and up. That there isn't a player or a team or a coach or somebody that is trying to influence the game for their benefit and against. Because if you're just watching a game, you don't want to think, well, I love watching football or baseball, basketball, whatever it is, but there are players that in order to pad their pockets and make themselves money, they're rigging the games, and that's the worst thing.
Well, that's the difference between that era that you're speaking of, or even through the Pete Rose stuff and everything else, and today is that the leagues have embraced sports gambling now tremendously. They're sponsored, FanDuel, whatever the case may be. Like I said, they're not only embracing it, but they're encouraging it by the way they have special shows just for my bets of the week.
Yeah,
and so it's creating this whole world where especially sadly where a lot of younger people are losing a lot of money because of that. Because it's hard to beat the system. And
let's take a short break. Come back. One more segment with Mark Rosen. He skedaddles. He's got television duties. So we'll take a short break. Come back with more. A keyword from Brett Blakemore to try to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest.
Yes, the cash thing. The fan and 2 minute junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is bank. Keyword bank. KFAN.com. Keyword bank. Baby's crying, that's normal, but if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to step away. Never shake a baby. Shaking can kill. 1 in 4 don't survive. Survivors often face permanent brain damage. Learn more and give today. NeverShakeMN.com.
Boy, how about those numbers from Wembanyama? 40 points, 15 boards, no turnovers, 3 blocks in 30 minutes.
He's an alien.
If San Antonio called you, Mark Rosen, the owner of the Wolves, and the GM, and said, well, we trade you Wembanyama for...
Well, there are two different discussions.
Anthony Edwards, would you make that trade?
Wemby might be once
last
in a
week
generation.
You said
no way.
You said not in a million years.
Look, you're discarding what Ant did last night. Who
no, I'm
put
not.
Up 41. Well, you didn't mention him. You just said talk about Wemby. Get to it. You're not, well, you didn't. You posed the question to me without even acknowledging the kind of night and how Ant saved the game for the Wolves with the clutch shooting and what he did with his 41 points. And
would you trade Anthony Edwards for Victor Wembanyama?
You can can make an argument for it. I understand that.
Okay.
Of course. The guy is...
because you said you wouldn't.
I know. I watched the game last night. He is, for lack of a word, he's an alien. The thing that I worry about with Wemby, and he's already gone through it all right, a man, and he's just growing into his body, is the injury situation. I mean, being durable enough to survive... 82, whatever he
Well, you can say that about anybody.
No, I know you can, but especially, I mean, I look at
Shaq
I think
stayed healthy. Shaq stayed healthy.
Shaq was a brick wall.
Well, but
Wemby's, like Chet Holmgren already went through it. I think they're more prone to have those kind of stress fracture type things. And I wish him nothing but the best. He's great for the league. He's charismatic. He's turning the world on a dime. I mean, he just destroyed the Dallas team.
He's the best player in the NBA.
Well, he might be. But I mean, I think the Wolves are very happy with their guy, and he proved it again last night. And they had some Achilles. They were swimming upstream all night long, and Finch. It's only game 1, and he's got to figure some things out. Dante DiVincenzo can't play the point.
Chauncey was coaching that game. You think there's any funny business?
No, okay. I don't think so.
All right.
No, I don't. Unless he wagered on the Wolves. No, I don't think so. And that was not part of the claim right now. So
what was I know it wasn't. I was just making a joke.
I know.
What was your impressions on no Dillingham and this start going to DiVincenzo? And DiVincenzo didn't play particularly well at the point. He had 6 turnovers.
Not. He was not comfortable at all. And it's something that, and this is for a discussion for another day. I mean, I'm reading things today I wasn't even aware of that. Like FanDuel carries the game last night. They normally have. I stuck around and wanted to hear what Chris Finch had to say, and they don't have a camera in there anymore. I don't know why. I don't know whose decision that is. I don't know why they're not doing it, but they're not allowing. I'm thinking, well, I wanted to hear why Finch didn't play him, and I heard through quotes after the game that he just didn't feel like he was physical enough to handle what Portland had to offer, and that Bones Highland played. And then it's one game. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily throwing him under the bus and saying I'm not going to play the guy. Jalen Clark was much more, played quality minutes last night. because of his defensive ability and what he can bring to the team, and that's what they needed. They had to make some stops last night. So, it's just the first game, and I'm sure Dillingham will get plenty of playing time, and we'll move on from there. But, there's certain things you can recognize right away last night without Gobert in there defensively. They're not the same team. Naz Reid still doesn't play great defense. Jaden played well. I mean, go down the list, but overall, they showed the grit of a championship-type team when it counted late in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game when it seemed like no matter what they did, Portland was going to stay a step ahead of them last night and save the day.
And, you kind of expect it was sloppy, I think, on both ends. First game of the season. I think that's it. Yeah, I guess that happens. So,
but on to L.A. They're in L.A. too. So
you like this club?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what Chris Finch does and how he does maneuver the point guard position. I'm anxious to see. Conley's not playing very much anymore, and so Dillingham is supposed to be the heir apparent. Did that surprise you though that he didn't start? Why did Conley not start? Because I think that they just felt that he's best right now, just coming off the bench.
Off the bench, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know the specific explanation of all that. I was a little more surprised if Dillingham didn't get some time, but again, it's one game, and we'll see. I assume he'll play tomorrow night against the Lakers.
Your Vikings club 3-3 taking on San Diego. The Chargers. They're
4-3.
4-3. They won their first 3 games. They've gone 1-3 since. Their only win was over a bad Dolphins team, and only by 2 points. Both teams struggling a bit. What's your take on that? We know Wentz is starting, and it looks like Aaron Jones might play. Your thoughts?
Aaron Jones will play. Both teams are dealing with some injuries. The Vikings, of course, I think the latest news with the fact that Christian Darrisaw doesn't look like he's going to play. Van Ginkel's out again. The Vikings were aware of that most of the week, so it's not going to come as a surprise, even in a short week, that they can adjust that offensive line. And this is probably going to be it for Wentz. If I'm Carson Wentz, I'm going, well, this is my last shot to not just so much impress the Vikings, but to impress other teams.
You think this is his last game?
Yeah, I do.
What if he's brilliant?
It doesn't matter.
Really?
McCarthy's
so if he goes 20 for 30 and 3 tutties and no interception, really?
Yeah, I think the kid's going to be back. If he's again, I don't know what his. I'm not the doc that's looking at his ankle. The biggest thing is, and we've concentrated. Most people have. We talked so much about the quarterback situation. I've been harping about the defense. You can't go three straight games without creating a turnover. And if they don't get one again tonight, they're not going to win. They're not going to win the turnover battle. They're not going to win the game. And the one guy that the Vikings always have to be concerned about, he kills them every single time. I don't care what uniform he's wearing, is Keenan Allen, the wide receiver. And he's torched the Vikings time after time after time. And that's where the Vikings defense has to step up. They have to create a short field for Carson Wentz and this offense, and that's by creating a turnover. It's just been way too long. I don't think the Vikings have ever gone 4 games without getting a turnover. And that's the game. That's when there's so much parity in the league, especially against a team like the Chargers tonight, pretty even across the board. Both teams are hurting in the offensive line department. The Chargers have a ton of injuries in their backfield.
Sounds like you're picking the Chargers to win tonight.
I have really no strong feelings about this game one way or another. And I think because it's just how do you pick a favorite in this game? Because to me, it's about how the defense plays. I talked about it last week. They give up the big plays against the Eagles where they were right in that game. And Wentz made some stupid decisions. I mean, the grounding of the ball, threw the ball over the middle. Ham's out tonight. That's going to hurt him from a blocking standpoint, especially with the offensive line being decimated a little bit again. Ham is out with a broken hand, so that doesn't help matters anymore. But you got to have those quick slant patterns. He's got to get rid of the ball quickly. 1,001, 1,002, hit Addison, hit Jefferson. Keep moving the chains, and you don't have to go for the spectacular play all the time.
I'll disagree with you on one thing. I think if Vikings win and Wentz is really impressive, he starts against Detroit.
Even if McCarthy's doomed healthy.
Oh, yeah. They want to win football games too, and McCarthy was. No. There's plenty of time to see J.J. McCarthy. There's plenty of time to see him.
Well, he's only saying that all along. But
he's only in his second year. He's only in the second year of his contract. He's a young kid, and he struggled mightily. The coach even said that. He said, well, this time off, we've really been able to work at some of his fundamentals again.
Yeah, I know. That's worrisome when they talk about working on footwork. I'm not disagreeing with that, and I'm not saying he's going to come out with gangbusters, but I think I think that the idea is if he's getting closer, and that's what KOC seemed to indicate earlier this week.
Yeah. Well, you could be right. My hunch is that. But,
we'll have to chew on that next week.
But it all hinges on Wentz being really good.
Right, 100%.
If Wentz plays like he did last week, he's out. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.
No, you will not.
Today's Thursday. That's right. It's Thursday. I'm sorry. So I'll see you on Tuesday.
Next week. Yeah. Thank you.
That's Mark Rosen. You can catch him a little bit later today on the pregame show on Fox. Vikings game day. We'll take a break, come back. One more segment to go. Common Man Program here on the Fan. No more vibes? Is that it, or do you have one for us?
I'm vibed out.
Oh, you're vibed out. Megadeth, Metallica, Green Day, Five Finger Death Punch, and Vomiting Rats. I'm Comedies, Brett Blakemore for Tenneby. Tenneby on his way into the radio ranch, though. He is your master control supervisor. The soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings are on the road to take on the Chargers. You'll hear that game on this radio station if you choose. Pregame will begin at 5 o'clock. We used to say be here for the boom at 7:50, but there's really no boom anymore. They kind of just pooch kick it into the little, what do they call it? The little landing area. There's an area where they had
landing
zone. And so we'll see. But you would be here for the pooch kick at 7:15. A text message came into the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. It says, the Vikings should pull from their agreement with KFAN. Half their hosts seemingly hate the team. Station has gotten ridiculous.
Huh?
And I had to text them back and say, never happened. They love the Fan, the most powerful and successful sports station in the country. They love our honesty. And they do. You know, I'll take you back to, we had the Vikings broadcast rights, lost the broadcast rights, and got them back. And the reason we lost them back in, I think it was the late 90s, different ownership group, by the way, I think this was the gang of 12. There were like 12 different owners. They all had a piece of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. And the Chad and Barrero show was in its infancy, and I was part of that show. I sat in the chair that you're now sitting in for the Chad and Barrero show. For people that were around back then, you know I was a flat catcher. I was meat sauce before meat sauce was meat sauce. And for those of you who weren't around then, it was a pretty successful show, and we were the only game in town. And Chad and Barrero, as they've always been and still are to this day, are just brutally honest when it comes to their observations regarding the hometown teams. And I was as well. We calls them as we sees them. And we were having much fun at the that's the word I'm looking for. We were having a lot of fun at the help me out, at the expense, there we go, at the expense of the Vikings, because they were struggling. And according to sources that I trust, the Vikings weren't happy about it. No! And they wanted us to cease and desist. And Mick Anselmo, Mick was the very first general manager of the radio station, and we have now on our, Mick, Crusher, Tyler, Alexander, my good friend, Derek Lundquist. So we're on our fifth since I've been here. And Mick says I won't muzzle my talent. Then they lose all credibility. They're not going to talk in robotic voices and talk about how wonderful they think the team is, and we're going to win all these games, and anytime we lose, it's just because of bad luck or bad refereeing. And we all were very thankful for that, and we admire Mick for that, and we lost the Vikings broadcast rights because of it. They said, we'll take our game and go ahead. Leave. We're not playing that game. And I think over the years since the Wilfs have bought it, I'm sure there are times, I don't even know if Zygmunt or Sir Mark ever listened to the radio station. I don't know. My guess is they don't really care what we have to say about the club. I mean, they would rather hear positive things, and I think all of us, I can only speak for myself, but I'll try to speak for us. I think we're all positive when the case needs to be made for when it's positive. When it's not, it's not. And we're not going to, just because some of the fans out there want us to always talk positively about the club and talk in robotic voices. Sorry, that's not going to be it. Sorry, it's not the way it works. You calls them as you sees them. And so all of the local teams like what we do. That's why they are with us. That's why the Vikings are with us. The Wild are with us. The Wolves are with us. The Gophers are with us. The Lynx are with us. We have the Frost. Do we do their games too? I think we do. I don't know. That's just, it's and if you can't handle it, sorry. It's like, do you really want? And he says, half their hosts seemingly hate the team. I hate when they play badly. If you have a quarterback that played as poorly as Wentz did, he had his moments. I mean, he ran for a couple of first downs, the bad shoulder. He wasn't getting any help with anybody open. And he was under siege on those 2 plays. And when your defense allows a quarterback to post a perfect QBR rating, QB rating that Jalen Hurts did last week. Oh, you were supposed to say positive things about the club? We lost. 3-3, they're in trouble. They're sorry that their draft picks over the past 3-4 years haven't really panned out. What am I supposed to say? They were all great? I mean, I even read a piece, and I don't know where I read it, but it was talking about the Turner character. What's his name again?
Dallas
Turner. And the article was trying to paint a rosy picture about Dallas Turner and where he's gone so far in his career. And a lot of it was due in large part to the quotes that the team, O'Connell was saying, well, he's done some nice things and he's done that. He's just like, well, they have the 22 wide. They break it down. They do it for a living. Maybe Dallas Turner is doing things that I don't see that make him a very valuable player to the defense. But when you trade as many picks as they did to move up to 17 to draft him, you expect more of an impact player. I think you just do. I mean, that's just the way it is. 17th pick overall should be an impact player. Impact. And I don't see much of an impact. And I know he was it Lane Johnson this past week, and he had a lot to do with that and blah, 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 blah. Well, when you're the 17th pick, you're supposed to hold your own against a guy like Lane Johnson. And I think maybe part of the reason the Vikings say the things they do publicly is they don't want to beat down. They're trying to get the most they can out of Dallas Turner. And, it's possible that he's kind of in the same boat as McCarthy, that they both have bright futures in the NFL, but they're both just slow to start. Because McCarthy, he had one quarter, he's been awful. And Dallas Turner, I'm sure he's had moments, but I don't see anything that's worthy of a 17th pick overall. But he is still young in his career. But I think you don't want to say negative things publicly to get a guy down on himself. They're trying to build him up and keep positivity. So,
my response to that text, the 651 guy, that half their hosts seemingly hate the team, stations got ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you really want to listen around the clock to, we're great?
Yeah.
We're the best thing
especially
ever.
When it's not. Another one says, the only reason they're all with you guys is because there really is no other choice. There's lots of choices out there. Matter of fact, they selected some of those choices at one time. So I just told you. Weren't you listening? The Vikings went elsewhere. They went over to WCCO, the evil neighbor. There's other choices. And you know what? Even if they're not, we've made it so there are no other choices. That's what we've done. Because we're really good at what we do. So be it. So, and I do think the teams appreciate, they'd rather hear honesty. They really would. Wouldn't you? What is it, lie to you and tell us we think the team is, they're 3-3, but they really should be 6-0. Been jobbed by the officials, a lot of bad breaks. Haven't played very well. Had moments, but the moments have been too few and far between. List Radio, Lazy Radio. Did you see the Hall of Fame finalist list
Oh.
Here's what we have. Hold on. It's a good time, Ken. Anderson was named. This is Ken Anderson, former quarterback of Cincinnati, was one of a dozen senior candidates and the only quarterback who was chosen as a finalist for induction to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. These are the senior guys, the guys that have been bypassed, and this is basically their last chance. Here are the players that have an opportunity that are on that list. Where did the list go? I don't want to hear about Ken Anderson. I don't care about Ken Anderson. Here are the quarterbacks. It says that in that story that Anderson was the only one. That's not the list I see. Ken Anderson, Charlie Connerly, and Roman Gabriel are the old timers that are available. Ken Anderson was a really good quarterback. You know what? I'm kind of maybe not the best person to ask about this because I've always thought that the Hall of Fame sometimes allows a lot of borderline players in just because they got to keep putting guys into the Hall of Fame to keep it relevant, right? So I was a big Roman Gabriel fan. He played for back in, the late, mid to late 60s, early 70s for the Rams. Arch rival of the Vikings for a while. Vikings were always battling the Rams in the playoffs back in those years. I would like Charlie Connerly was he played for the Giants back in the 60s. Running backs, Roger Craig, his heyday was San Francisco. He played some with the Vikings. Chuck Foreman, longtime Viking. Cecil Isbell and Paul Tank Younger. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about Isbell or Younger. You can make a case for both Roger Craig and Chuck Foreman. I think longtime Viking fans will like to see Chuck get in because he was a very good running back. Hall of Fame worthy, I'll leave that up to the people that do the voting on that. Wide receivers, Isaac Curtis, somebody called Lobby Dilweg, Henry Ellard, Harold Jackson, Stanley Morgan, Art Powell, and Otis Taylor. Again, some of those names are very recognizable to people, and they were all really good players. I just don't know if they're Hall of Fame worthy. Now, the offensive linemen on the other side, these are names you've heard so often that I'm surprised like Joe Jacoby isn't already in, or Bob Kuchenberg. Jacoby played for the Hogs, right, for the Redskins, I think, all those years. And then Kuchenberg played for the Dolphins. I'm surprised neither of those guys is in as often as you heard their names called during their playing time. Defensive lineman, L.C. Greenwood. One of the few of the Steel Curtain that's not in. I already thought he was in. And then our guy, Jim Marshall. If you remember, Mark Rosen said he would not rest until Jim Marshall got into the Hall of Fame. And you know what? Rosie looks tired. It seems like he has lost a lot of sleep.
I always loved
Jim Marshall, one. I still... what's the... Favre broke that record, right, for consecutive games played. Doesn't he hold the record, Brett Favre?
I'd imagine so.
I think Marshall held it for the longest. Like Marshall played like 270 straight games or something like that. Linebackers, Carl Banks, Maxie Bond, Larry Grantham, Leroy Jordan, Clay Matthews Jr., Tommy Nobis. Nobis was a terror for Atlanta, but he played for a terrible team in a terrible city with terrible fans in a terrible stadium. Defensive backs, Dick Anderson, Bobby Boyd, Albert Lewis, Eddie Meter, Lamar Parrish, Everson Walls. The one name that sticks out for me, Anderson, I think, was with the Dolphins, and then Everson Walls played, I think, for Dallas. Did he play for Green Bay, too? I don't remember. I know he played for Dallas, but... Of this list, and I left out a few names, 9 former players will ultimately be selected as semifinalists in a vote that's slated to take place sometime over the next month. From there, 3 senior nominees will be selected as finalists for possible induction. The final Hall of Fame vote, which also includes modern-era players and coaching contributor, typically takes place during Super Bowl week, with that year's Hall of Fame class being revealed during the NFL honors. So it's a ways off yet. But maybe Jimmy Marshall, who just passed away recently, will finally get into the Hall of Fame. And whether Chuck Foreman gets in remains to be seen. Here's a text message. The texter said that it seems like half the hosts do nothing but rip the team. I disagree. If you take the 6 primary hosts on the Fan, 83% of the hosts rip the Fan. Yeah. Yeah, I have, I've certainly over the years been as hard as anybody on the club. I mean, what really gets people mad as part of my stand-up gig, too, is when I say we weren't that far out of that Philadelphia NFC Championship game. All we needed was a touchdown, 2-point conversion, an onside kick, touchdown, 2-point conversion, onside kick. Oh, I get ripped all the time. Most people finally came around to my way of thinking because I ripped the Pole lads and the Twins for years. Wolves, how could you not rip them for as bad as they were for so many decades? Now, I've even been hard on them the last couple of years, even though they got to the Western Conference Finals. Wild, same thing. I don't know what you can say that's too positive about the Wild Club right now. So you just got to call them as you see them. When the teams play well, we praise them. When they don't, they don't. You know? I've ripped the team for their quarterback decisions. They should have kept Sam Darnold. Should have signed Aaron Rodgers. Should have kept Danny Dimes. That's negative, but that's the way I see it. The Dimes thing was a little harder to see. I mean, he wanted to be here, but he really hadn't done anything. This year is the first year he's really done anything. But you're constantly searching for franchise quarterback. Sam Darnold played like a franchise quarterback, and we said, not willing to pay him that kind of money. And I understand you want to get a quarterback rookie contract, and he was hand-picked. And when you're a quarterback whisperer, or at least feel like you're very good at developing quarterbacks, it makes sense. And we'll see. There's still plenty of time to find out. He's still young. He's only in his second year. He's basically a rookie. He last year, obviously, he was he was hurt the entire year. But anyway, we'll keep doing what we do here. We stand strong is what we do. You're with us, right, Brett Lakemore?
Tough Love Covenant.
That's exactly what it is.
Come on.
It's the Tough Love Covenant. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great job today.
Yeah, you as well. You did an admirable job filling in
Thank
for the interim producer, Teneby. We enjoyed our visit with you today. Back tomorrow at 12 noon to talk about a Vikings victory or a Vikings loss or maybe a draw. Stick around, though. Big Ticket, JG, they're coming up next right here on The Fan.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Minnesota! Good night, folks, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
I'm a fraud.
Yes.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.